Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming here. My name is Gharib Haji Slevane, and I am the Vice President of Kurdish Professionals. Thank you for coming and joining us here today. We are pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for some time now, as well as those of you who are new to Kurdish Professionals. Today marks our first annual conference, and we are very proud to be able to host it today here at TSU Avon Williams campus with all of you. Just before we get started, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you volunteers, sponsors, and families who so generously helped us make this event come together smoothly. We couldn't have done it without you. You have all chosen to be a part of our association because of our mutual passion for empowering the youth and enriching academic achievement in our community. Your passions help us all to come together as one, and the energy we create as one allows us to achieve our individual as well as group goals. We need you as much as you need us, and this is why we are so happy to have you join us here at the first annual Kurdish Professionals Conference. During the next few months, you will be getting to know more about our different initiatives through our planned activities and special events where you will be able to join and get your very own hands-on experiences. I hope that these will prove to be memorable and fulfilling for you. These are, of course, not the only things that are important to us. You will also be meeting lots of new people and making new friends along the way. Here at Kurdish Professionals, we value and cherish the friendships and connections we make, as they more often than not prove to be formed on a strong common ground, which in turn makes them last for many, many years to come. I think that I have kind of gone on long enough, so I need to leave some time for Dr. Zaid to introduce himself to all of you. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the President of Kurdish Professionals, Dr. Zaid Brifgani.
I'm supposed to pretend I'm not intimidated. Well, I'm not, but I'm very impressed with this crowd. So I would say, start off by saying, Reza Salav and good evening. Dear guests, friends, supporters, and sponsors, on behalf of the organizing committee, the leadership group, and on behalf of the entire Kurdish Professionals organization, I would like to welcome all of you to our first annual Kurdish Professionals Conference. What an exciting day for an exciting and groundbreaking event. The Kurdish Professionals Organization is a non-profit organization dedicated to education, networking, and mentorship, as highlighted in our mission statement. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "The most persistent and urgent question in life is, what are you doing for others?" So from this perspective of urgency, the Kurdish Professionals Group was started in response to the needs of many of our youth in the community who aspire to reach their goals of education and career development. And this organization was also started in response to the needs of many of the parents in our community who have young children, young men and women in their families who have great energy that needs to be driven in the right path to maximize their potential. And also, this organization was founded to respond to the needs of many professionals, graduates, who have for a very long time wanted to have a platform for networking, connection, to exchange their ideas, and to provide support for each other and to give back to society. So this is how this group started, and this is how the Kurdish Professionals came about. And for the past 2 years, we have had accelerated and rapid growth with many youth joining our organization and participating in our events. So what I want to say today, I will quickly go over what we are about and what our vision is. We are proud to say that also for the past 2 years, we have had many supporters and many followers across the country who have followed our work as we have been trying to create a focused, local model of excellence for Kurdish professionals in Music City, Nashville, also known as Little Kurdistan. We are very happy to have you here, and we are excited to share with you the product of many months of dedication and very, very hard work by our young leaders and professionals. The overall theme of this conference this year is about overcoming barriers to excellence and success. So this event will have several sessions and programs tailored towards the needs of the students and the parents. We also have a strong lineup of speakers with great stories of excellence that they will be sharing with you and how they can help us get to that level and to contribute to our society. I also want to say that tonight you'll also have the opportunity to witness some amazing local art that will be displayed during the art show. So make sure you stay behind until the end. There's a reason we kept it until the end. And then I will also want to say that tonight we will launch our major mentorship program called Project Future, which will be featured later in the second part of this program. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of many great things for our community. And this is the beginning of many bigger and bigger projects to come. And we have just started, and we need your support. We cannot do this alone. We need everybody's support in the community. Our community has great potential, but also has big challenges ahead of them, ahead of all of us. So now is the time that we put all our efforts together to elevate this community, to empower our youth, to create a generation of leaders that will leave a lasting positive effect in the community. I urge all the students, the youth, parents, professionals, and graduates to join us, to help us, to support us. And as I said before, we cannot do this alone, and we could not have done this alone. We have the support of everyone. Your presence here means a lot to us, and it is a big source of support and inspiration for us. And we also have some great sponsors who sponsored our graduation picnic last summer and stuck with us, which gives us the honor and also the responsibility that we have to be up to that challenge. So the message I want you to leave with today about our organization is that this group is for the community, by the community, and that's how it's supposed to be. And this is the organization where everybody's voice is heard and all opinions are respected. This organization is not about I and me, it's about we and us. And that's how it's always going to be, and that's our promise to you. And you need to support us and give us feedback about that. We are about developing the youth. We are about developing talent. We are about developing each other. We are about helping each other become better. So my last message for everyone in the audience today, and for the entire community, and for anyone who will be watching this later, my message is that we have a lot of needs in our community, not just in Nashville, in other communities as well. And these needs can only be met by our local talent. Because our local talent, this is the only group of people that totally and actually understands our problems without making shortcuts and without judging. So I believe there's tremendous amount of talent in our community, and we believe that 2 years ago when we started this group, and it became apparent to us as we went along, and we had hundreds, if not 1,000 members, and hundreds of profiles sent to us by amazing talent that we have in Nashville. And just one, that talent will be on display today later in the panel discussion and subsequent talks, and you will see in the workshops, and also, as I mentioned, in the art show, which I really have a personal connection to it. I just never realized we have such amazing talent in our community. So we need all the help we can get. We need your trust. We understand that trust has to be earned, so we want you to give us a chance to earn your trust. We want you to give us a chance to work together, but this cannot be done by us alone. This cannot be done by the students themselves. We need parent involvement. The Kurdish Professionals is not just about a degree. It's not just about a status. The Kurdish Professionals is for everyone, including students and parents. And I will say lastly, together we will be better. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and I hope you enjoy your time.
So Zaid and Ghari pretty much did the introduction. My name is Shahristan, I am the secretary, and I'm here to introduce our keynote speaker. So our keynote speaker is a very well-respected individual in our community abroad and back home. She is the Kurdistan Regional Government Representative to the United States of America. She was born in Baghdad in 1976 and moved to the United Kingdom, where she was born in Baghdad and she moved to the United Kingdom in 1976, where she obtained a graduate degree in history at London University and worked as a journalist for 17 years. Her work has been highlighted in The Observer and the Financial Times. She has been a great supporter of our organization, and we are very proud to have her here today. I present to you Madam Bayan Sami Abdurrahman.
Good afternoon. I'm going to take a picture of all of you because people always ask me for pictures, so I'm getting my revenge. So, I have a very short time to say many things. First and foremost, I want to thank you for inviting me here. I love Nashville. I think Nashville is the heart of the Kurdish community in North America. And I love coming here. You're always so hospitable, so generous with your time, so generous with your food, and I want to thank you for inviting me. I also want to congratulate the Kurdish Professionals Organization. I think it's excellent that young people in our community are organizing community organizations for themselves. So this is why I want to support you, and I wish you every success going forward. I'll be brief. I want to tell you my story as somebody who grew up in the diaspora, like many of you here. I was 11 years old when my family moved to Britain. I had 2 brothers, 1 sister, and my father, many of you know, helped us settle. He got a house, he made sure we were all registered in a school, and then he left and went back to Kurdistan and continued with the Kurdish struggle. So my mother was effectively a single parent. Of course, my parents were still married, but she brought up 4 children by herself in a foreign country. She didn't know how to speak English. She didn't know how to drive. She didn't know the British system, what happens in school, what is the system in that country. And my admiration most is for my mother. Now that I'm a mother, and I only have 1 child, she had 4, I know how difficult it is to take care of your children, to maintain your own culture, but to also accept and enjoy the culture that your children are growing up in. So there I was, 11 years old, in London, but this was a time when there weren't so many foreigners. So I went to a school, all girls. There were about 600 pupils or students in my school. Everybody white English, as far as I could tell. One black girl, one Pakistani girl, and me. Everybody else was blonde and blue-eyed and were called Jane and Sue and so on. But actually I felt at home. I didn't feel alien. I made friends. I learned English very quickly, so did my brothers and sister, and we fitted into our life. It wasn't a struggle for us. We enjoyed it. The struggle was more for my mother, and I don't think I appreciated that at the time. So perhaps a message to the young generation growing up here: try to be more sympathetic to your parents. Try to think what it's like for them. It's difficult for them. It's difficult for you in some ways, but it's also difficult for them. Now, having two brothers, I saw that in a Kurdish family, boys get away with everything, right, girls? They go out when they want, they come back when they want, they can do whatever they like. Whereas for me, I was the elder sister, my younger sister, 1,001 restrictions. So I had two brothers. One is older than me, one is younger than me. I'm in the middle. Inevitably, their friends, who are boys, know me because I'm Bayan, Salah's sister, Sirwan's sister. And God help me if one of them said hello to me, just hello. Hi Bayan, my mother of Kia. Right? You've all heard this. Mom, he is Salah's friend. He came to dinner. You remember last Saturday? Oh, okay. So I'm just trying to convey to you, I know what it's like, especially for the girls. So I have a message for the parents. Don't be so tough on your girls, and don't be so easy on your sons. Try to have a balance. We have a culture, Piroz, it's a Piroz culture. We have a tradition, we have a heritage. We are very proud of our culture and society. We don't want to lose it. But accept that you live in America or Europe or Canada. Accept that your children will go to school and most of their friends will not be Kurdish or from the Middle East or Muslim. Try to accept these realities. So now I've alienated everyone by saying these things, but I think they're important messages, and I say them from the heart, and I say them from the experience I had growing up in a traditional Kurdish family that was easygoing in some ways and not others in Europe. I want to tell you my story. I've had two careers so far. My first career, as Shahristan mentioned, I was a journalist altogether for 17 years. And since 2005, I've been working for the Kurdistan regional government, first as representative to the UK, and since 2015 as representative to the US. So I'll start with my journalism career. I grew up in London. There were very few Kurds at that time in Britain. There was no satellite television, no Rudao, no, I don't know, what are they? All of the ones that people watch. No satellite Kurdish television, no internet, no mobile phone. We didn't dare phone our family who was still in Iraq because Mukhabarat would listen to the phone call and they would be arrested. We were cut off from our country and our society. It was thanks to my mother that I still speak Kurdish. She always spoke Kurmanji to us. My mother had pictures of Kurdish leaders on the walls of our living room. I would go to school. My life would be very British. I would speak English all day. Everything I did was I would have fish and chips for lunch. Everything I did was European and English. I would come home, music, Shavan Parwar, I don't know who else, I'm trying to remember who my mother listened to, Hassan Zirak. And everything at home was suddenly Kurdish. Dolma, kubba, birinch, fasulye. I'm getting hungry. So this was the life that my brothers and sister and I had. We were very English at school, and then home was the heart of Kurdistan. And I appreciate that my mother did that. So when I was growing up, of course, like all of you, I followed Kurdish politics. I followed news of what was happening in Iraq, in Iran, Turkey, Syria. We were always worried for our relatives. This was the era of Saddam Hussein. And of course, in the 80s, the genocide stepped up and hundreds of thousands of our people were killed. So I had to choose a career. What should I do? I wasn't good at the sciences. My parents were very disappointed. They wanted a doctor. I wasn't good at the sciences. I was better at the English literature. I was better at history. I was very good at arguing. I was always told I'd make a very angry lawyer. So I became attracted to the idea of journalism. And I remember when we were young children in Naupurdan, in Galala, in those places, in the mountain villages where the Kurdish revolution had its headquarters. I remembered foreign journalists would come and visit us and stay with us because my father spoke English and he was in the leadership. And I think I was always fascinated that a French woman from Paris would come all the way to a tiny Kurdish village to write about us, to write about what was happening to us. And then, as I grew up in Britain, I realized the power of the media. If it wasn't for the media, in 1991, the international community would not have come to our help. The fact that the media came to the mountains on the border of Turkey and Iran and saw hundreds of thousands, maybe 2 million Kurds, starving, dying in the snow. It was the media that forced public opinion, forced George W. Bush, John Major, and others in Europe to do something about it. So as I was growing up in London, I appreciated the role of the media, and I decided I want to be a journalist. So when I was at school, I did internships in the summer with some of the local newspapers. People tried to put me off. They would say, journalism is extremely competitive. You should go for a safer profession. And I thought to myself, honest to God, I thought to myself, well, somebody becomes a journalist. Why shouldn't it be me? I wasn't a very confident young person. I may look confident today. If you met me when I was at university, I was very timid. I was always shy. I had some very good friends, and I'm very good friends with them today. But I never challenged my professors. I was never confident that I knew enough. But I was confident that I wanted to be a journalist. So eventually, after university, I applied to the nearest newspaper, the equivalent of what is your newspaper in Nashville. So I applied to my nearest newspaper and I got a job. And about 2 days after I started, 4 people were sacked. So suddenly I was a very important employee because I was one of the few employees left there. But I worked hard. I was there, I was the first there, and I was the last to leave. I had a notebook with me. I wrote down everything as I went along. When someone showed me how to use a machine, this is a photocopier, I wrote down notes. When they told me this is how you write a headline, I wrote down notes. When they told me this is how you take a photograph, I wrote down notes. That little book was my guide to how I would do this job. I was very committed. I was hardworking. And my advice to you, whatever career you choose, be committed. Work hard. Nothing beats hard work. There are lots of people who would say that success is 90% hard work, 5% good luck, and the other 5% is magic. 90% is hard work. So I got into journalism. There was no WASTA. When I said on Twitter that I was looking forward to coming here and speaking to you about my story, somebody tweeted back at me, "Don't forget she has had a lot of privileges." It's true, I have. I come from a privileged background, and I'm proud of my parents. They sacrificed a lot. But I didn't have privileges when I was growing up in London. When I applied to university, my name was Bayan Rahman. They probably thought I was a man. They probably thought I was from Pakistan. Sami Abdurrahman was nowhere near there when I filled in the application form for university. Nobody knew who I was. I had to apply for every job. I had to get the experience to take me to the next stage. I worked my way up through hard work, commitment, diligence, through newspapers. Then, after a few years, I entered a competition for young journalists and I won. I was more shocked than anybody else that I won this competition. And part of the prize of that competition was to work at the Observer, which is one of the main newspapers in the UK. That was part of the reward. And that really opened doors for me. Suddenly, I was working in one of Britain's top newspapers. They really opened the door for me. Later, I applied to the Financial Times, which is really an international newspaper. At the Financial Times, I worked in London for 6-7 years. My husband and I were in Japan, in Tokyo. I worked for the Financial Times in Tokyo. All hard work. I know nothing about finance. I didn't have any knowledge about how investment banks work, about bonds, about the stock market, about foreign currency exchanges. I didn't know anything about oil, commodities. But when I was at the Financial Times, I had to know. I forced myself to know. I worked hard. I had my little notebook, writing down everything anyone told me. This is my advice to you. Now, some other career advice, and I think I'm already out of time, but I'll be very quick. Since this is a professionals organization, my advice to anybody who wants to get on in a career, whether your career is in politics, in government, in medicine, in accounting, media, legal work, I have some advice and you're welcome to take it or ignore it. Get as much education and training as is needed for that profession. And it's a known fact that usually women need in themselves to feel confident. They want to be more qualified. When a man and a woman both apply for the same job, the man feels confident when he has 50% of the qualifications. A woman, she has to have nearly all of the qualifications, if not more. This is a fact, and I can see it in my own life. I worked for a newspaper for about 3 years, and I felt that I didn't have proper training in journalism. So I took a huge cut in my salary. I went to a newspaper that had a training program, and I started again from zero because I wanted the qualification. Maybe a man wouldn't have bothered, but I did. So get the training, get the qualifications. It'll pay off later. The other advice I have is whatever profession you're in, network. And this is why the Professionals Association is so important. If you're in medicine, join your trade union or your association. Network with people in your industry. It'll open doors for you. It'll open connections for you, especially somewhere like America, which is so vast. The other thing I would say is find a mentor and be a mentor. Now, in my life, my experience, my mentors have changed, partly because I've changed my career, but also different stages. When I was 22, I needed someone who gave me different advice from someone I need today. Even today, I have people who mentor me, who guide me, people that I go to for advice. So the mentor that you have today will not necessarily be the mentor you have in 10 years' time, even though sometimes, if you're lucky, you get some lifelong mentoring. And be ready to advise other people yourself. The other thing, my last piece of advice, be ready to be active, be ready to participate. So when I first became representative in London in 2005, a lot of the British media contacted me and wanted to do interviews. And I didn't feel ready to do a television interview. So I had some training. All politicians on television, they have all had training in how to speak on television. One of the things that the person who trained me said, she said, when you're watching television and a politician is asked a question, think to yourself, how would I answer that? Before that person answers, think to yourself, how would I answer that question? That was a crucial piece of advice for me. So whatever profession you're in, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, put yourself in someone else's shoes and think, how would I answer their question? Be active in your profession. Be ready to participate. If you're always sitting at the back, you're never raising your hand, you're never participating, no one will know you exist. I've spoken a great deal. I think I'm over my time. I want to quote Winston Churchill because I think it's a golden statement that he made. Winston Churchill was British Prime Minister during the Second World War. For us Kurds, he's a very controversial figure. He actually believed in an independent Kurdistan in the early 20th century, so that was very good. But he was also brutal against the Kurds, so that was bad. But what I'm going to quote you has nothing to do with his actions towards Kurdistan. I just think it's something you should remember in your life. And he said, and I apologize if I'm going to misquote him because I don't have it written in front of me. He said, victory is not final. Defeat is not fatal. What matters is to have the courage to continue, the courage to carry on. As you go about your careers, you will have victories, it won't be forever. You will have defeats, it won't be fatal. What matters is that you get up and you carry on and you fight for another day. Thank you very much.